Lo-Fi Horror Guys Growing on You Live Season 15 is sponsored by Metal Blade Records. Metal Blade Records was formed in 1982 and still remains independent with offices worldwide. Throughout the years, the label has released material for countless renowned acts such as Metallica and Slayer, and is currently home to Amon Amarth, the Black Dahlia Murder, Cannibal Corpse, Space Chaser, and many other legendary artists. You can find Metal Blade Records on social media as well as metalblade.com to find the latest news and new releases. Once again, find them on social media as well as metalblade.com.
All right, Rick, what is up, man?
What's up, man? Sorry
All
about
right.
the delay here.
No, you're good. Everything good?
Yeah, I think I'm ready. I think I'm all set here. Oh, Jesus Christ. That's bright as hell.
There's a light.
Jeez.
Have a fucking spotlight behind there?
Yeah, it's my first day in my house here, which is a lie.
Shit.
No, I'm lying.
Okay. Nice. All right, well, we're gonna get that out of the way. So yeah,
Should I
so
move these comments down? There we go.
Yeah, I appreciate the time once again today. I mean, it was kind of a bummer to cut off last time, but I didn't want to rush it. You know what I'm saying? I love hearing about this stuff, and it was a cool opportunity to be able to talk with the majority of, and I'm going to be reaching out to other members of This Is Hell, and hearing a lot of the in-depth stories, and I didn't want to cut that shit short. So I appreciate you coming back on, and
oh yeah, for sure, man. I know I'm so long-winded. I'll try to be concise this time.
Dude, I love it, honestly. That's not whatsoever, digging into some of the wrestling shit and some, it's funny too, from that conversation, actually, I went into looking online, and there's like a whole list of different wrestlers that basically just had like rips of fucking like top 20 or top 40, songs that were like their entrance music. I was like, holy shit. Like listen to, like, for instance, Raven had like Come As You Are from Nirvana or some shit. It was like, what?
Yeah, a lot of the in the 90s, especially like ECW, they didn't care. They were small enough that nobody paid attention to like the copyright. So they would just use real bands. And then once any of those guys went to WWF or WCW, instead of just coming up with a brand new theme, they'd be like, hey, let's like make a song that sounds a little bit like this, but is like a crappier version. Yeah. So yeah, Raven definitely did that. Raven came out to
I think that was even
by Offspring in ECW, and then he had a fake Come As You Are in WCW.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it was funny just because you mentioned that, and I'm like, fuck, I guess I'd never even really like thought of like going back and kind of hearing like, this is exactly this same song, just an octave higher or some shit like that.
Yeah.
Mother, you rat bastards. All right, so picking off, we ended right before digging into Weight of the World. So I just wanted to start there and kind of take us back to writing that that album and working with Benny. Having the conversation with him and having him on. He mentioned that he wasn't all that familiar with thrash and kind of the style too. Which was fucking crazy to hear. I mean, just as far as kind of the backstory with it. So take us back to some of the writing for that album.
So I actually started writing that record while we were still touring for Misfortunes. I remember the first song I wrote for that record specifically was The Search, and we were doing an overnight drive, and I wrote it in the back of the van, which is so crazy because I'm so old and I never have time to do like anything anymore. So the fact that we were on tour and we had an overnight drive, I was like, oh, what do you want to do on this overnight drive? Instead of like sleeping or relaxing, like, let me take my guitar out and like play some more, which, is super cool. It's nothing I would ever be able to do now. Anyway, so I had written that song, and that kind of set the bar for where Weight of the World and like the new stuff at that point was going to go. I think I might have actually started writing some other songs before that, but nothing was really clicking. If I remember correctly, everything that I'd written between Misfortunes being released and writing The Search almost seemed like Misfortunes 2, which I don't think this, but I see how other people could already see that Misfortunes was like Sundowning, 1.5. So
Okay.
when I wrote The Search, I was like, it's a basic crossover song, which at the time for This Is Hell was like, oh, this is very different. But I was like, yo, this is so much fun. It's very different for us. Like, check this out. Like, you know what? I'm gonna play a lead and I'm gonna use a wah pedal and then I'm gonna play another lead right after it. So after that song was solidified, it was kind of this a little bit of a balancing act where that was the first song that got used. The second song was what the fuck is the name of that song? It was also on the Warbirds 7-inch. It was on Warbirds and Weight of the World.
Oh.
I hate when bands can't remember the names of their own songs, but I can't remember the name of that song. Either way, it was kind of like two different styles As Hell was doing at that point. There was the the hardcore with like the big sing along and the kind of more like dramatic stuff still, and then the more crossover stuff. So those two songs were kind of like the building blocks, and then I wrote the song Warbirds, which was on the crossover, the thrash side. And then I don't remember exactly where we left off, but towards the end of Misfortunes, the lineup was kind of fluid again. Even I know Benny mentioned it when This Is Hell toured with Dead Swans in Europe, in the UK. Burke had already left the band. We had Dennis Wilson, who now plays for Saves the Day. He was playing drums for us at the time. And it was kind of this gray area of like, is Dennis in the band or is he just filling in for this tour? And we tried out a bunch of people, and Dennis like fit in personality wise and also drumming wise, but same thing, he doesn't even really come from hardcore, but he tried out and he just nailed it. I was like, yo, this dude rules. But he had other things going on, and it was kind of this gray area. So after that tour, it was kind of like, I don't think we have a drummer. Like, what the fuck is going on? And John Moore had also just left. So that European tour that we did with Dennis playing drums with Dead Swans as support, featuring, Benny, John Moore was playing bass for us. And on that tour, he's like, I'm not going to tour anymore. I'm going to be an adult. So then at the end of the tour, it's kind of like, so we don't really have a bassist or a drummer. Like, what the fuck? But that's when Andrew Jones came to the fold. Andrew had been a friend for ever at that point. Played bass in the Backup Plan, my 1A favorite Long Island hardcore band ever. And Andrew played in Up the Fury and just Long Island hardcore and punk staple. So as soon and John leaving was a blow. John is my best friend ever. But I did know at that point, like, I'm pretty sure I can give Andrew a call and he'd be ready to go. So we were in Europe, so instead of giving him a call, I gave him the internet. Like, hey man, John's gonna leave after this tour. Like, do you want to do it? It's like, yes, of course. Andrew played drums for the first This Is Hell tour.
Oh shit, really?
Yeah. The first This Is Hell tour. We probably spoke about this, a couple months ago. The very first This Is Hell tour, neither me or Dan Burke were on that tour.
Okay, right.
Because I was doing that other band, and Dan had just gotten off tour with the Backup Plan. He didn't really want to go into touring again. So Andrew Jones, who he could play everything, he's like, I'll play drums. So Andrew played drums for 2 months with This Is Hell on tour back in 2004, and then was doing other bands, like I had said at that point. But when it comes down to it, he's a bass player. Said, hey, you want to play bass? He said, yes. It's like, all right, cool. And then even at that point, I was like, hey, I got these new songs that I'm working on, which went on to be the Warbirds EP. He learned that stuff, no problem. This type of band was made for him also. So we get back to the States, and then it's like, what are we going to do about a drummer? We have no drummer. We're about to record an EP, knowing we want to record another full length also. Then the idea came up, like, wouldn't it be sick if, like, we can get Benny in the band, which is so stupid because he's in a different country, a different continent, like a 4-hour time difference. It's like only idiots would think like, oh, that's a viable solution, but we are idiots. So we called Benny, said, hey, you want to do this? He said, yeah, which is everybody making dumb decisions there. And it's so great because, and I've said this a million times, and no disrespect to any other drummer I've ever played with, because I played with some great drummers. Benny is my favorite drummer that I've ever played with. He is fun. He's a team player. He never doesn't do his homework. There's nothing he can't play. His humor fits in with it's, hey, here's something. You want to play in a band with me? Your humor has to match up. Anything else we could take care of. If your humor doesn't match up, you're the best drummer in the world. It's not going to work. And Benny is more of an alien than any of us. And I don't mean just because he's from a different country. He's a fucking alien. And you have to be some type of alien to have some guys that you kind of know. Like I said, we had toured with Dead Swans and we had known Dead Swans, but it's not like we've known each other for years or anything. Like, hey, you're from a different country. You want to play in a band? Yeah. All right. How is that going to work? I don't know. We'll just make it work. And we always did make it work. Yeah. So same thing, I sent him some songs before he even decided to fly over and like practice with us, which is so dumb. I'm going to keep saying how stupid it is. It's like the craziest decision ever. But, and it was like, hey, he knew our old stuff. And, if memory serves, he was a fan of our EP and Sundowning and such. It's kind of like, all right. And we're doing this newer stuff, which was, like you say, getting into that thrash area. Looking back now, it's crossover, but I'm also not a nitpicker, crossover, thrash, metal, punk, hardcore,
right.
If it rocks, it rocks. And, so Benny's saying like, oh, I don't really know if I can play this, but I'll give it a shot. Like, you can fucking play this. And he obviously, nailed it.
Yeah.
Maybe my brain doesn't work, but if I remember correctly, none of it was really that big of a deal. Like, oh, yeah, our drummer's from England now. Like, all right, no big deal. Oh, everybody wants us to play Sundowning constantly. So we wrote Misfortunes, which, people didn't really want to hear at the time, especially. And like, all right, well, maybe some people come around to Misfortunes. Oh, cool. We're going to, we're a crossover band now. I'm kind of sick of this a little bit. Like, I always loved, metal. I was brought up on metal before I was, into punk or hardcore. Like, I'm going to go back to doing that a little bit. So just the consistent theme of This Is Hell is just like, how could we alienate our fan base over and over again? But that was never the point ever. It was just, well, we wrote the EP. Let's write something different. Okay. Then we wrote Sundowning. Thank you for thinking Misfortunes rips, because I think Misfortunes rips too. And, we wrote Misfortunes, which, like I said, in hindsight, I could see is a bit of like Sundowning point two. I didn't think that at the time. I can see that now in my brain. It's not. And then once people got into Misfortunes a bit, then it was, all right, cool. Now I'm back to 16th double picking chugging. I'm playing a locking system guitar, so I'm doing dive bombs again. And by again, I mean like way pre This Is Hell. And
right.
It was just a natural evolution of, I don't want to speak for anyone else, and I also don't want to be like control freak about it, but I know for me, what I'm digging most at that time is going to come out in what I'm writing. I was a bit over the whole ultra dramatic, very kind of like dark and broody hardcore.
Okay.
And for many reasons, not just because I was I don't want to say sick of playing it. I was never sick of playing it. It's a part of my style playing, and obviously part of This Is Hell's style. My overlying interest as far as music at that point, as well as my mindset, I just wasn't there anymore. I was enjoying life a little more, where during the writing of Misfortunes, I was a miserable prick. You know, if you talk to Travis, God, he could probably, if he wasn't too lazy to write a book, he could write a book about how much of a miserable bastard I was in 2006 and 2007 and 2000. My brain was shitty. And I used the music to get that out, which I think made a couple of great albums, whether anybody else agrees or not. Like, the point of this hell was never to appease anybody. It was to kind of, for us to have fun, but for me, selfishly, to get out what I needed to get out. And at that point, I had gotten all of that out. I was ready to, you know, still play, in some ways, play heavier, because Weight of the World is heavier than anything we did prior. But in my opinion, Weight of the World's a lot of fun. I'm not a skateboarder. I never was a skateboarder because I was terrible at it when I was 7 and 8. I was worse at it when I tried again when I was 16 and 17. But taking that out of it, I don't think somebody's going to put on Misfortunes and want to go out in the sun and skateboard. And that's not what that music's for. Weight of the World, just musically, I'm not talking about lyrically, you want to go out in the sun, pound a Red Bull, skateboard, and throw a glass bottle against the wall with your friend. And that's kind of where I was at at the time. Exactly. And, you know, it was, and you know what? It's crazy because the writing of that record was like that. And I don't want to jump ahead. So, yeah, I'll stop here. The recording of that record also had that energy.
Oh, okay. Now you went out to California again, right? To record Weight of the World.
Yeah, that was the first time we'd gone out anywhere to record. But
okay. I was thinking Misfortunes was you guys, that was the first time you guys went out west.
No, Misfortunes. Yeah, Misfortunes we recorded at home. Like, and Sundowning we recorded in Brooklyn, which is like at home, but like I don't fucking live in Brooklyn. Misfortunes was recorded 10 minutes from where I lived at the time. And that was awesome as far as convenience and as far as saving money and at the time making a little bit of money because nobody cares about the way music business works. I don't think Misfortunes was the best environment for us to be recording in. But at the same time, man, it all made perfect sense for my like shitty brain at the time. It all lended itself to that. And that's why that record sounds like an internal warfare turned into like a fucking mutant gorilla fighting a radioactive tiger. You know, it's just like a cacophony of inner turmoil turned hardcore ferociousness. Where Weight of the World is heavier and it sounds like a New York hardcore band, and probably just because I know, but even though none of it was written in California, I hear California when I listen to that record.
Yeah, and totally.
Maybe that just comes out because of the energy that went into the recording of it. And dude, that recording was so rad. We got such a deal on the studio that we had no business being in. It was really cool, and it was very interesting. Where like, oh, you know, we went pretty metal comparatively for this record, and we felt like we were riding a little bit of that metal trip there. Like, you hear my dog?
Yeah.
You know, New York band goes to California and records a metal record. Like, that is so cool to me, and that's so like fucking 1988, and I love it. And we had so much fun recording that record. It was just like a whole different trip for This Is Hell at that time.
Okay. Now, so I wanted to dig in a little bit. If you can recall, you know, you mentioned you know, having a little bit of a different taste as far as things that you were listening to at the time, things that we, you know, were playing. What was stuff that you were listening to and you know, the shit that was drawing you at that time? You know, because that's the thing is, it was still, you know, the turned more so like crossover thrash, but there was still the heavier hardcore moments that were in the album. But certainly, I mean, you know, bringing the thrash element of it, myself, I was like, oh my God, this can't get fucking better.
You know what it is?
We'll get to that.
The thrash is not my first love in music. You know, we probably spoke about this because I'm like incapable of not having a convoluted conversation. Like, hey, tell me about the first Biz record. I was like, well, when I was 5, I really liked Def Leppard. But thrash, you know, essentially the big four, you know, even though I didn't refer to it as that at the time, that is what made me go from like, oh, music is cool. Wouldn't it be cool to like be in a band one day, to like, I need to get a fucking guitar. I need to, that got me off my ass. And that was where my actual guitar playing and music musician journey starts. So after doing hardcore and This Is Hell 2004, 2005, 6, 7, 8, 9, it's just hardcore constantly. And that's old bands, new bands, just like bah, 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 bah. That's all my life was. And like, dude, we were on tour constantly. And it got to the point where it was just, dude, if you have your favorite meal every single day for 3 years, on January 1st of year 4, like, hey, can someone just like fucking throw like a rare hamburger in my face or something? So it was kind of like that. Like, you know, I just little by little, like, we're on tour with hardcore bands. I'm always listening to hardcore bands. Like, oh, let me like listen to this. Let me listen to that. And then at some point, it was just what I was favoring was the bands that really got me hyped and the albums that really got me hyped. So it was, I don't want to say out of nowhere. It wasn't out of nowhere, but it was almost like after a couple of weeks on whatever tour it was, like, yo, all I've really listened to for the past month is like 1982 to 1995 metal, you know.
Okay.
So little by little, that makes it into what was influencing what I was writing. And it was kind of like, not that I ever forgot it, but like a resurgence of my complete obsession with Metallica. And then along with that comes my obsession with Slayer. And then my love of Anthrax and my love of Megadeth and all eras, but especially 90s Testament. And then, of course, you know, Sepultura. All these bands are just like creeping back in. And then, of course, you know, more than any of their other albums, Best Wishes, Cro-Mags. Like,
oh yeah,
you can, but like, if you know Best Wishes, Cro-Mags, how could you listen to Weight of the World and not hear it over and over? Like, oh yeah, I have that record too. I didn't, you know, write that record over again and just put my own band's name on it. Like, well, I did, and This Is Hell, Weight of the
World. It's funny you mentioned the California thing, and I think even especially right now how there's like the resurgence of thrash and even like the crossover style. But some of the bands that are in California that kind of have that thing going, that's, you know, they're straight, you know, that's very much a feel. And this was fucking 2010, you know, I mean, it definitely kind of bleeds over to some of the things that I see now, you know, and it's like, oh, well, I mean, I guess I haven't put that, you know, so much together as far as like it, you know, coming full circle and kind of in fruition, even now 10, 11 years later, you know, but it's funny that you mentioned the California scene, especially the West Coast scene, because I've never put that together, but I totally see that, you know, after you mentioned that, it's like, it's a different energy, still heavy, still fast, you know, you can tell the punk, the hardcore elements to it, but yeah, the energy is different on that one for sure.
Yeah, and you know, we put out Weight of the World in 2010. Look at some of the other, you know, hardcore bands that put out records in 2010 and 11. Like, look at Terror from that time. And it's crazy because it just, in my opinion, it's just something that happened. I don't think
Mhm.
it was a thing where like, oh, well, one band did a little bit of crossover and then everybody else followed. Because all these records like came out around the same time. And, you don't hear a record in January and then release another record in May and be like, oh, well, it was influenced by that record in January, because if it's released in May, you were probably recording before that record came out.
All right.
But it's just the timing of it. Different bands that came out, like a band like Terror was super crossover around that time, and then a band like Alpha Omega, like they were diving into the crossover at that point, also. So it's so interesting that there was just this like kismet deal where I guess everybody was kind of, I don't want to say over it, of the 2000s. Over it is so shitty and wrong, but just the natural evolution of it.
I would think a progression, sure.
Exactly. And I think stuff like that's cool, where it's kind of like, being that a lot of bands did that, I guess coincidentally, it made it okay, and it wasn't like, oh, this band's like trying to be metal now, because that attitude is so prevalent in, I'm not going to even single out a certain type of music, in every type of music and everything in the world. Like, hey, let's find the negatives of everything and just fixate on it. It was cool that it wasn't like, oh, you did a record like this and then like this, now you're doing a record like that. If anything, it was kind of like, oh, this record is like cool, I kind of skipped over album 2, but album 3, it's super different, but hey, it's cool. Mm-hmm. Which I hope everybody thinks everything we do is cool, because we do it selfishly. And then if anybody likes it, it's just added incentive.
Yeah, right. I mean, I think that's, I don't know if it was to you that I mentioned, but a friend of mine had mentioned before, it's like, if you're not the biggest fan of your own band, like, you're doing something fucking wrong, if you don't play something back and get like the early demo. Actually, you were mentioning, getting the early demos from something and just beating the fucking brakes off of listening to them. It's like, that's the same thing every time you get something back and you're like, oh, this is it. Well then,
dude, I just took
doing it right.
Yeah, I just took a song that Ian, the guitar player, the other guitar player, Extinction AD, was working on, and I was kind of doing some editing and all that shit. And I did that last night and was working on it, finished it. Oh, I have another idea. Just go back and work on it real quick. And I should have got into bed. And I mean, I don't sleep anymore as it is. But I got into bed like, all right, cool. I have like 5 hours to sleep before work. And I got out of bed like, oh, wait, I have another idea. So anyway, completed this song, and I'm texting it to Tom and like, yo, I did another version, like, listen to this. And I'm sure he's sleeping because it's 100 o'clock in the morning. And so I worked all day and I listened to that song like 100 times. It's like, what are you doing? You're listening to the same song over and over again today that you like finished last night. It's like, oh yeah, that's what I did all day. I listened to the same song over and over again.
Hell yeah. I mean, I would look at you a little more crazy, but I've been in the same situation. So, I mean, I definitely get that, I mean, I think that's, that's the thing. Like you mentioned, I mean, not jumping into music for, for the money and having a good time. Yeah, it's nice that shit comes, but, if you're making something that you can bang your head to or enjoy however the fuck you're going to enjoy, I mean, that's the biggest gratification I think that you can get out of it.
Yeah, and you know what? It's almost debilitating when it doesn't work. Like,
yeah.
So essentially, yeah. Hey, let me jump all over the place. We're working on completing the next Extinction AD record, and we were at one level, and then step back. So it's just all over the place. We decided, hey, we're gonna cut 3 songs, put 3 new songs on, whatever. So we're working on new songs, and we're on a time crunch and everything. There was one song I was working on about like a week or so ago, and I thought I was done, and then I just like, I physically can't relax even if something is like done, but I know that it's not right. And it's like a stupid brain condition, because it's like, yo, you're going to get to it later on. Wait till then. It's like, nope. I'm like I'm super uptight no matter what I'm doing. It's just this like incomplete feeling until it's done. And then once it's done, it's like, oh, there it is. Like I was saying before, and listen to the song over and over again. It's like, this is just a song that exists on my computer and now like in my work van, and I'm listening to it and like I'm getting psyched. I'm getting goosebumps on this shitty demo over and over again. But like, it has to be that. It always has to be that. Even, you know, we're gonna put 10 songs on a record, and just by nature of the world, some of those songs are gonna get some attention. Some songs are gonna be on that record and probably will never get a chance to be played live. But from my point of view, before it's released into the world, none of these songs are like just filler. Every one of these songs has to be the 10 best songs I've ever heard in my life. Otherwise, why are they going on the record? Now, are they the best songs in the world's history? Absolutely not. Probably the song I think is the best. Nobody's going to give a fuck about. But on the other hand, I have to think that every single song, every line that I write for every song needs to be like, that line to me is good enough to go on the back of a t-shirt. If it's not, why am I putting it on this song? Yeah. Like I said, and I know that's not the reality once everything's done, but it's so crazy because it, like, in some ways that's so much pressure on myself to be like, yo, not every line, like the third line in the second verse of a 3.5 minute song, that's not going to go on the back of a t-shirt. What are you, stupid? But it's like, well, to me, at that point, it needs to seem like that's the case. So I have to, you know, every single note and line on the record, when it's being written, needs to feel like a home run. Otherwise, I seriously feel like I'm looking for a lost pet out in the world.
Nice. Have you had anything, may it be Weight of the World or records prior or even after, where you just jammed the shit out of it, you loved it, you went and, you know, you spent so much time and then got in the studio and then maybe it didn't end up on the album, or it just, the energy wasn't there in, you know, the final recording of it?
Do you know what? Not with This Is Hell or Extinction AD. Usually everything is pretty well vetted by the time we make it to the studio.
Get to that point. Okay.
Yeah. No band that I've ever been in has money to waste to go into the studio with like, hey, well, you know, we are going to put X amount of songs on the record. We're going to record X plus 4 amount of, you know, songs for, and then we'll figure out what's going on. And, you know, this didn't really make it. Even with Weight of the World, we recorded Rat Race, which was like a B-side, which, you know, it doesn't even exist anymore. An extra song. We knew way before even going to California, we're going to record this, but this is going to be an extra song. And it wasn't that it wasn't good enough. It's just there were X amount of songs, and that song wasn't. The other songs were A++, at least in our brains at the time, and that song was just an A+.
Okay, got you. I was gonna mention that after I started thinking about that question too, because it's on Apple Music, or I don't know, whatever the fuck it is. I know I have that downloaded because I played the shit out of that song too every time I have on Weight of the World. But nice, nice. That song rules too. I was wondering where that went. So that was just didn't quite fit in with like the fluidity of the rest of the album then.
Yeah. It was just, you know, we knew we wanted to keep to a certain amount of songs. Chris, what's up, man? Been forever. And you know, it was kind of like, hey, let's record anyway because we really like the song. But like, yeah, with This Is Hell, we always wanted to have extra songs because it was always like, hey, let's do a 7-inch, let's do this, that, and the other thing. We always essentially went 7-inch, full length, 7-inch, full length, 7-inch, full length. So we knew we were going to do stuff like that. So like, let's record it. And I think it was released as like a single after the record came out, which, you know, at that point, I believe like the whole streaming platform was relatively new. You know, obviously iTunes existed, but like not Apple Music or Spotify, whatever, and that stuff might have been new. But that was we had it, and we were on Rise Records at that point. It was their idea, and they were always cool with stuff like that. You know,
Sweet.
there was some ups and downs with Rise, like any record label. But man, talk about a label that did not need to have a band like us whatsoever. If anything, we were a detriment to the label. You know, we weren't going to make that band. We weren't going to make any label money, but especially a label that size. And it was kind of like, you know, I won't go into it because I know I'm spending so much time on everything, but there is a funny story about our first, you know, meeting with Rise Records. But they were essentially, hey, we have bands, you know, A, B, and C, because those are our money-making bands. We have bands like that, you know, don't get me wrong, they like those bands. But we have bands like that so we can spend money on a band like you that we really like, but we know it's gonna be like a write-off. And you know, I'm fine with that. Like, I'm here to have fun, and they allowed us to have fun. They pay for us to go to California and record twice, which is, you know, funny as hell.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's, you know, they were a label that was, you know, much bigger than This Is Hell was, so that was cool.
Yeah, that the twice pinpoint was funny. I like that. What can you say was what's your favorite track off Way to the World?
It's really, really hard to say because, you know, I know, you know, I don't even know if this is true. Way to the World might be my favorite This Is Hell record. It's really hard to say.
Yes.
The Night the Line Was Crossed is really different for us. It was such a fun song to write. We never played it live, ever, I don't think. No One Leaves Unscathed is so cool, opening track. Fall and Rise definitely isn't my favorite, but a part of it is my favorite. Because same thing, I'm going to try to keep this as short as possible. That was a song that I wrote in 1997 for Subterfuge as like, hey, knowing we would never do anything with it, but it would be fun to, like, wouldn't it be funny if we wrote if we had like one like metal song? Because Subterfuge was like a punk hardcore band.
Right.
So wrote that song and recorded it, and Chris, the singer, wrote like what we thought was like funny metal lyrics at the time, or now, and whatever. So as I was writing songs for Way to the World, and we were going this more thrash metal crossover route, I even said to John, who's still in the band at the time, you know, remember Night? That was the name of the song, Night. I was like, check it out. And I was like, high as hell on Red Bull doing an overnight drive. And I'm driving, and I was like, yo, you know how there's, it's like, and I'm just like mouthing how the song goes. I was like, we can do this, shorten that part to this instead of, I'm going to go, ga-ga, ga-ga. And I like restructured the entire song and wrote like 1.5 new parts, all while driving, no guitar, just like I said, just like caffeinated out of my brain. And he's like, okay, cool, man. Like, sounds good. So did the overnight drive, went to sleep wherever we were the next day. Woke up, I programmed the drums on my computer, and without ever playing the song, just from memory of how the song goes and being a psychopath from 1997. So this is, give or take, 12 years later, just to reprogram drums, recorded the song one take all the way through. I was like, yo, this is insanity to turn this joke metal song from a hardcore band in 1997 into a fully realized crossover song in 2009, you know, the demo. So that song has like, the story is just so fucking ridiculous to me. And because, you know, I wrote that song with Chris and John, two of my best friends ever, for a hardcore band in 97. So that song is like, that story makes that song like have a special place for me. But you know what? I know favorite song on the record is "Death of World Class."
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, it's such a good one too. You know, the Fall and Rise, was that the original lyrics then too? Like, did you use
No.
the lyrics? Oh, okay.
No, the
I was
original
like,
lyrics were night, thunder, rolling, crashing light, defy your sense of sight, fear dripping from your skin, evil creatures burrowing in, night, the torturous cries of night, something, something, your soul, something, something, something. Like I said, it was supposed to be a joke. Just like,
you
hey,
have
would
that
it be
written
funny
down
to...
or some shit?
No,
Jesus
I'm sure
Christ.
Chris
What the fuck?
Mazzella probably has it written down somewhere.
Oh my god,
Dude,
that's
I have the demo, 4-track demo, like a digital file. If you remind me, I'll send it to you because it'll be funny for you because you're a fan. You know what else? I have your Extinction
Oh
AD shirt.
man.
I mailed it to you the other day, and then it
Uh-huh.
got sent back because I didn't pay enough postage for it, apparently.
Right. Well, I mean, no rush. Shit, I'm stoked either way. I can't wait.
I'm going to open this closet behind me to get a dongle because I need to change my headphones because my headphones are dying.
All right, got you.
So,
Not a problem.
but
Well,
I
so
still
it's
oh look, they're all my t-shirts.
Shit, there you go. No, it's sick, and actually it's not something that I sent over, but I'm glad that you touched on Fall and Rise because that was the moment in the album, and still that's my favorite track today as far as through that album. But it was one of those things where I loved everything that I was listening to. I was like, this is next level, and it got to that song, and that was the moment where I was like, this is one of my favorite albums of all fucking time. Like,
Oh, that's sick. That's sick. Oh, you know what else?
can't get better.
Bloodlines, Eagle of Justice, and Death of World Class. Initially, my idea with those was, I'm going to write an instrumental for This Is Hell. And those songs all go into each other. That was written as one song to be an instrumental. Because like I said, I was like,
wow.
rediscovering that the only thing in the world I care about is Injustice for All. So it was like, I need an instrumental too.
Right.
Oh, you know what else too? I started writing that and wrote almost all of Bloodlines in a parking lot on tour with Dead Swans.
Oh shit! Okay.
Once it was completed, I was like, this is a stupid idea. Like, let's put vocals on it, but we'll keep Eagle of Justice an instrumental because, like, obviously no one's gonna fucking sing over that. And I was like, well, hey, because I love Injustice for All, and To Live Is to Die, the instrumental on Justice for All is my favorite instrumental ever. I've always been obsessed with those, like the strings on that. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna put strings on Eagle of Justice, and dude, it's so simple. Like, that song is just really simple. It's just the clean guitar and then another guitar and then some strings and just keeps building and building and building. And dude, I love that song. That was I was really getting into, like, to say like composing just because there's strings is so fucking pretentious and kind of like a misnomer, but like having fun with writing music to go with rock music or metal, whatever the fuck. But like I said, like strings and working on those harmonies and everything. So much fun, and I like felt accomplished as like a musician at that point. And I still think that that whole like those 3 songs in a row is such a cool piece of music.
Totally. Were the strings something programmed in, or did you guys have musicians come in?
No, I wanted to have real people come in, and I if I remember correctly, hopefully I'm not
Rise Records is like, all right, dude, settle down.
I hope I'm not lying about this, but if I remember correctly, we were able to we might be able to budget this in. And then once we got to the studio and I'm showing the engineer, he's like, it's 2010. We don't need to do that. Like, you already have the MIDI. Like, now we'll take your MIDI, put it through my real, $1 million studio equipment,
It's like, if we recorded real people and paid for real people to sit in and do this, it would sound exactly the same. Which,
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true or not, but when I listen to Eagle of Justice, it sounds like fucking strings to me, so it's cool.
Yeah, totally. Okay. Yeah, I didn't know if there was something that you guys ended up having somebody come in, or there was already someone there or whatnot. But yeah, I mean, and the cool thing with it too, it being where it is in the album, it's a little bit of a breather. You know, it's not something where it's anything corny. It's not something where it's like, all right, we got to sit through this for a second. It's also interesting. And then that's the sick thing where it, you know, the track before, the track after also blend into it, you know, kind of as a continuous piece. That's sick. I never knew that it was all initially written as one piece too. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Damn. All right.
Well, this like dumbass fantasy of these long instrumentals, like, came to fruition finally with Extinction AT.
Yeah. We'll dig into that for sure. Next, I wanted to get on. So Black Mass. So this is the first album that you had that Scuzz came into play, right?
Yeah. So Benny played with us for a while. We did so much touring with Benny. We recorded the Warbirds EP, recorded Weight of the World. At the end of 2010, the beginning of 2011, I was like burnt, super burnt. Fuck, man, we had been essentially nonstop all of 2010. Went to Europe, I think once or twice. Went to Australia twice. Did tons of U.S. and Canadian touring, yada yada, just on. We were supposed to go and do a European tour January 2011, and I was just like, dude, I need a fucking break. I don't really know. I wasn't psyched on that tour, and I just wanted to like go to bed. And I think Benny was a little burnt also, and it got to the point, said, yo, I know this is like the worst thing in the entire world, but like, let's cancel this tour. It's so stupid, but anyway.
Oh shit.
We wound up canceling that European tour, and I'm so glad we did, because we were going to be sharing a van with two bands, and apparently both of those bands just like smoked and drank in the van the entire time. And, you know, I don't like dealing with drunk dumbasses, but I can deal with it. I don't want to deal with anybody smoking ever under any circumstances, especially when I'm in a cramped van and have to sing every night and live. So anyway, it was for the best that we canceled that tour.
Sure.
Because we dropped off the tour. Anyway, Benny was kind of burnt. Benny was broke because he's flying back and forth constantly. We didn't have work visas, so he was getting issues going back and forth in the States all the time. And, you know, we didn't make, you know, we're a hardcore band and a crossover band. We never made enough money to, like, really make money. So even if we were able to cover Benny's flights, it's like, well, then he just came over here and he's not really making any money. It just wasn't really convenient. So, and he's like, hey, I know you're kind of burnt out on this also. Like, I'm not going to do this anymore. I don't remember the exact verbiage. It wasn't anything shitty or anything.
Right.
So at that point, we had a couple of shows the end of 2010 still. Stillborn Fest with Hatebreed and a couple other bands. And it just didn't make sense in any way, shape, or form to fly Benny back over after he had just been to Australia and then to the States and then back to the UK to come back to the States for 3 or 4 shows. And, you know, Scuzz has always been around. And Pete had joined the band playing bass at that point. And he's like, hey, I play in the band with Scuzz, and, you know, you obviously know Scuzz. He'll do it. Like, all right, cool, man. You want to play a couple shows? He's like, yeah, cool. I'll play a couple shows. And then from there, we kind of, it's funny saying this now, like, oh, we didn't play any shows for like 3 months, like, which is no big deal. But for This Is Hell to not play shows for like 3 months was like, oh my God, we're like on a break. So, you know, little by little, we like booked a show here and there. And I'm like, oh, we're going to do a weekend. We're going to play Crazy Fest. And I think at that point, it was just kind of like, we made Scuzz play with us. I think that's kind of really was. I don't know if there was ever like, hey, Scuzz, do you want to like join the band? I think it was just, that may have happened, but I think it was just kind of like, well, we've had every other drummer on Long Island and even the fucking England at this point. You know, Pete's friends with Scuzz, and you know, Scuzz will show up and play. Like, all right, cool, man. Like now you're in the band too. I'm pretty sure that's essentially how it worked out.
Okay, damn. Just pulled him on in, gave him a noogie, and told his ass to sit down.
Yeah, I wish he would sit down. He likes to stand up sometimes. Sit down, man. You're the drummer. But even before that, you know, Andrew, who, you know, recorded and on Warbirds and Way to the World. And I don't know if I brought this up last time. I know I brought this up on my podcast when I had Andrew on the show. Andrew is the most underrated member in This Is Hell history. And yeah. I don't know if anybody's ever rated anybody in This Is Hell. But yeah. I feel like we've had so many people in the band that were so integral in very specific ways. So I feel like they get their due. Or they were in the band when we played, you know, bigger shows. So a certain amount of people gravitate to lineup A or B or C. And I feel like Andrew as bass player in This Is Hell kind of gets looked over. And I don't know why I always feel the need to like say this, because anytime this era comes up, I always do. But Andrew came in so easily and just kicked ass from day one. From my point of view, Andrew was always so much fun to tour with. Ultimate team player once again. Would also just like, you know what? I jam sometimes.
The microphone's kind of cutting out. Let's see here.
Sorry, my headphones are going crazy. Andrew.
Oh, there you go.
Did you have no sound for a little while?
Yeah. No, it was just like the last 2 seconds. I couldn't hear.
I would verbally jab Travis sometimes, you know, because it's fun, and Travis is like the best sport ever, so like it's fun. And Andrew would just go so deep with him sometimes, and it's so amusing to me, like them going back and forth. But you know, same thing. Andrew got burnt out because we were just so go, and Andrew's also playing in Soldiers at that point. So Andrew's like, I'm gonna stop, you know, at by like the end of this summer or whatever. And it's like, fuck, now we need to find another bass player. And I had known Pete peripherally from playing in Last Conviction and Endwell. And my roommate at the time, you know, one of my other best friends, Bill Ryan, was like, yo, you know that dude Pete who played in Last Conviction, now plays in Endwell? Like, why do you ask him to play bass? I was like, I don't really know him, but like, sure. So I got in touch with Pete, said, hey, man, we're looking for a new bass player, blah, blah, blah. You want to come and, you know, hang out and play guitars in my living room? And he showed up, and it was as if I had known and had been playing music with him forever. It was seriously we jammed playing on little practice amps for like an hour or two in my living room. I was kind of like, all right, cool. You want to be in the band? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then from that point, we went and did the alternative press tour, which was check out this lineup: Bring Me the Horizon, August Burns Red, Emarosa, Polar Bear Club, and us doing these like probably like 800 to potentially maybe like 2,000 cap rooms. And hey, we're going to go and do that tour for like a month and a half, and then we're going to go over to Australia for a while. And that was Pete's introduction to the band, playing a lot of Way to the World stuff. And then the whole, you know, Scuzz thing that I rambled about until about, I guess it was around May of, what year is that? 2011.
So 11, yeah.
Where from January to April or so, I'd written an entire record of not even crossover at that point, just like fucking metal. Where I was like, you know what? This hell's kind of like chilling out a little bit. I'm sick of it. I'm gonna start this metal band, and I'm gonna fucking sing and play guitar, and like I'm cranky. So I have this whole album written, and then Travis is like, "Yo, are we gonna do something or what?" And I was just kind of cranky. I was like, "Well, I do have this album written, but like that's not for us." He's like, "Yo, come on, let's just use this." And I said, "Well, I was planning on singing on this stuff, so even like vocally, because my brain, man. So, Weight of the World, not start to finish, but the majority of that I wrote the lyrics for, and that was my first like majority lyric writing duties for This Is Hell. So,
right, okay.
For Black Mass, I just I wrote fucking everything there. And because it wasn't 100% supposed to be a This Is Hell record
right.
at that point. So then I was like, well, the vocals are catered to what I can do, which is very different than what Travis can do. He's like, well, let's just fucking give it a shot. I was like, all right, whatever. And I went into it kind of like defeatist. And the four of us got together and played the shit. And it was like, yo, man, this fucking rocks. This is what we're going to do. And then it was that simple as far as like the more metal leaning stuff was more in tune with Pete and Scuzz at that point. And Travis was up for anything. And Travis stepped up his game tremendously. Yeah, in all actuality, Travis stepped up his game every single album, which is funny because I gave Travis more shit every single album. But dude, Sundowning was Travis at his best at what Travis regularly does. On Misfortunes, we pushed him like, we are just this fierce, that ridiculous analogy I gave you earlier. So Travis had to step up his game to get to there. And then Weight of the World, like you said, it was going that more crossover thing, which suited Travis's voice as it is. But he had to do, I hope I don't offend any real singers out there. I know Antonio just joined, who's a real singer. More tonal stuff. For This Is Hell on Weight of the World, it was like, oh, we're kind of hitting some notes.
Sure.
And then on Black Mass, it was, like I said, written for my vocal style where and I sang a lot on Black Mass, but even what was required of Travis was way beyond his comfort level and his comfort zone, wherever the fuck. And man, my opinion, he delivered a stellar performance on that. So it turned out really, really cool. And going off of the Weight of the World crossover thrash thing, by the time it was Black Mass, it was like, we are a fucking metal band. Black Mass in 2011 was the album, and I remember I saying this on interviews and stuff, and it's true as hell, man. That was the album that Rick in 1994 wanted to hear and wanted to play. And dude, none of that was lost on me then, and it's not lost on me now. And the first tour we did on that was Comeback Kid, Under Oath, and The Chariot, which is a crazy, crazy tour and super cool. And we went out on that tour. I don't remember if we were, as far as the package, first or second, probably first. We went out as if we were this, I don't want to say big metal band, because that implies we had these attitudes of we're this big band. Not like that, but we wanted to have fun with the whole thing that we created. So, you're first of 4? Go up there with like a base stack and a half stack, play your set and get the fuck off. Nope. I went out with 2 full stacks. So 4 cabinets, two amp heads. We had 2 8x10 cabinets. We had if I remember correctly, for the first time, we had like a custom kick drum head that like said fucking like "This is hell." It had the Black Mass artwork on it. We had like a backdrop that was too big for the first of 4 bands on that tour to have, and it wasn't an ego thing whatsoever. It was straight up, this is so much fun. And dude,
Okay.
and it was like, to be honest, I don't even remember if we went over well or not on that tour, but I do remember having so much goddamn fun on stage every day, setting up a million cabinets, breaking down a million cabinets as quick as possible because we're first of 4. Dude, all fun. We brought a guitar tech with us for the first time, so I'm playing Floyd Rose guitars exclusively at that point, which the upkeep is such a pain in the ass. And one of our friends who was like really good at teching was like, "I'll come out for free." I was like, dude, that is the perfect price for me.
Yeah.
So man, everything about that record was so much fun. Went to California to record again, same studio, but bigger budget. The production on it had to be more because it wasn't just a crossover record anymore. It was a fucking heavy metal record where we were precise. We were so tight. You know, I'm layering 4, bare minimum 4 rhythm guitars. I'm doing, dude, within the first 2 songs of Black Mass, I do 5 guitar leads. I'm not even a lead guitar player. Who the fuck do I think I am? Like, all right, how many times can I play a pentatonic scale and try to trick someone into, like, it's a different guitar solo? Apparently 5. Dude, so much fun. And writing the lyrics was also very different for Black Mass than it was for Weight of the World. It was same thing, just as fun, but in a different way, because I'll just say this and we'll move on because we're on to Black Mass. We're done with Weight of the World. Almost, if not every song on Weight of the World has a complete 50-50 double meaning, where it is something I was going through in my life and a wrestling angle, and intertwining the two. Sometimes it's very obvious, like the night the line was crossed, which is a direct reference to ECW.
Yeah.
And then some ones that aren't as obvious, like No One Leaves Unscathed, which is, I'll leave it at that. But you know, if there's wrestling fans, you know, I think it's very interesting. Like, well, I love wrestling and I need to get this shit out. So just 50-50 merging 2 things was so fun and like a cool, like, artistic endeavor for me. But Black Mass is when I really, you know, there's plenty of like personal things on that, but at that point was where I started I started paying attention to the world at large a bit more than I was prior. Not just like me, how does everything affect me? But like, oh, that's like an interesting issue. That's an interesting issue. I'm like, oh, that's shitty. And I almost started to feel irresponsible. Not that this was ever this huge band, but you know, we play in front of people. I started to almost feel irresponsible, and some of the bands that we were playing with at the time, not this tour, but specifically, but you know, prior tours or just spot shows, like, you have this platform, even if you're playing to 100 kids, but sometimes you're playing to, you know, 600 kids. And what are your songs about? Oh, this song's about how this guy stabbed me in the back and this chick broke my heart. That shit's all well and good. Totally. You need stuff like that. But I kind of almost felt everyone's doing that. I feel like it's irresponsible. We have this platform. We should try to say something a little more.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, maybe that's even a little more of an exaggeration. I felt like I wanted to get out a little more. So then on Black Mass, we got a little, lyrically, it got a bit more socially conscious, maybe, if I could say that without sounding too like pretentious or corny. Even if it was like, well, this event happened, this situation is going on in the world. Even if it was, I'm going to express how that situation affects me, it wasn't so insular. Like, you know, I'm really mad at Billy, so this song is about fuck Billy. You know what I'm saying? And,
right.
You know, and like I said, that's not bad. You know, like played in Soldiers. Every single song is about, I hate this guy, this is how I'm gonna beat him up. You know, so there's a place for that shit, and that shit is a lot of fun sometimes, especially if it's, you know, something that comes from a place of like trying to empower other people through that, and that, you know, that's what Soldiers was really about, not about like fucking, you know, punching people.
Yeah.
But
yeah, totally.
so it was just again, fourth record, fourth version of This Is Hell. Different bass player, different drummer, same guitar player, same singer, totally different perspective from that guitar player and singer, and lyrics, again, a totally different perspective. It was like this whole new beast and this whole new animal. And even though everything was filled with such vitriol, that whole era was so much goddamn fun, man.
I have to say that was right around so I saw you guys. This was the first and only time, unfortunately, that I got to see it, was when you were on the Hatebreed tour. That was like an insane fucking tour. I think it was Hatebreed, Terror, Job for a Cowboy. Who am I missing?
Every Time I Die.
Every Time I Die was ridiculous. Absolutely fucking ridiculous. And I remember going and like seeing that, and it was just so cool. And I mean, like, you guys had played it first, and it just did not let up like that whole show. And I mean, what a cool memory, you know, as far as being able to see you guys, and a cool time seeing you guys too. It was definitely different and more of a, you know, metallic approach to the playing and just the attitude.
Yeah, we had a second guitar player on that tour also, which we were essentially a one guitar band from late 2008 all the way until early 2013. Aside from having Chris Mazzella, who sang in Subterfuge, my first band, he would jump in sometimes and like join us for a tour for like 3 days. It'd be like, cool, we have a second guitar player for 3 days. Tom Wood, who, you know, was in This Is Hell Now and in Extinction AD, sometimes he would jump in as bass player, and then Pete would jump on to second guitar.
Right.
And it was like, man, especially once Black Mass hit, like, this shit is so much better with two guitars. So
yeah,
the beginning of 2013, we had Chris Beal join for, yeah, I guess it was just 2 tours, but, you know, 2 really fun tours on second guitar. And that made it so I could, you know, do more dive bombs and play more leads. And
I got to say, too, a memory that just came up of that show. I remember at one point you changed out your guitars, and you were like, I mean, they're tuned the same. I just thought it'd be fucking cool to change out the guitars.
Dude, I'm telling you, like, hey, let's play this metal trip, which is so funny because we switched guitars with Extinction AD now because we play in a couple of different tunings. And it's funny that it was fun back then. And you know what? It is fun now, but it's also like a pain in the ass. It's more of a pain in the ass now because I'm like singing and playing guitar, and it's like, oh, between songs you change guitars. Like, if I'm not singing and I don't want to engage the crowd, then it's, you know, it's fun. Let's play something different. When I'm singing, like, it almost feels like there's a lull, like, ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba, hey, silence while I go and change my guitar because, you know, we're going to play in C sharp now.
Yeah. You had mentioned the wrestling reference. Was the last Outlaw, was that something about the Undertaker? Is that a fair assumption or no?
You know what? It's funny because I think the term "the Last Outlaw" I lifted because at that point the Undertaker was very much into his definitely going to fight at WrestleMania, going to be off for a little while, come back and do something, be gone a little while, back for WrestleMania. So at that point, they were doing that whole. He was an attraction. He wasn't a main, a consistent guy. And they gave him that. It wasn't even they gave him the moniker "The Last Outlaw," but it was like part of some promos and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, that's cool. Mine now.
Yeah.
but the song isn't about the Undertaker. That you know what? Yeah, I don't know why I'm making like, I'm not gonna tell you what the song's about. Yeah, that song was about how I felt in This Is Hell, as This Hell being my life and music being my life, and leaving for a tour. And a tour is fun. It's a great time. It's like the best, if you're making money, it's the best job in the world. If you're not making money, it's the best hobby in the world. But it is work. It's fucking work if you're doing music full time. And what I want is when we get back from a 1.5-month tour, a 2-month tour, and we come home to New York and play a show, I want that to be the culmination, the best, like the fucking pinnacle of everything. And it never, ever has been for This Is Hell. If anything, New York was like a lull city for us. And it always sucked when we, our friends, we have friends all over the place, when we were touring and young. But, our fucking boys, our crew, our like tight-knit people are not just New York and Long Island, but like Long Island hardcore. And when we would come back and were treated like some shithead band from, Fuckville, USA, even though we're playing home, and like, you're my friend, you're supposed to be my friend, like our bands are buds and everything, but like we can't get the time of day because we don't, fall into this clique or that clique or yada yada. I know I'm being like kind of vague and everything here, but it got to the point where I felt like we have always been so real. And it's crazy because sometimes bands get shit for changing and evolving. And my point of view, that's as real as it gets. If you're doing the same shit over and over again, sometimes that's just who you are. AC/DC, totally cool. When bands are, in my opinion, transparent, doing something because it's the trend, kissing this band's ass and mimicking that band just to like get in with a clique or whatever, like, that's not real to me. And to see bands who I think are just disingenuous as fuck, just be worshipped, like, especially in underground music, where like we should be we are the counterculture. We are the fucking outlaws, we are the fucking the minority, even when it comes to music. And we're supposed to be brothers in arms in that way. And I feel like not only are we not, but you're using what I think is this like sacred underground movement and just kind of fucking faking the funk. So that's why the term "the last outlaw" hit with me. because it's like, yo, that's how I feel. I know I'm living my life at that point. What, 2011? I'm fucking 31. I'm living my life like an 18-year-old, and I'm totally fine with it. And other people are like, yo, you are this basic, boring, you know, paint by numbers life, doing everything regular, and like weekend warrior, hardcore guy, and being lauded as like the fucking the second coming of the bad brains. And that shit irks me so much. So that was even like, dude, specific lines, you know, the whole Statue of Liberty covered in snakes. It's a ridiculous line, but it was like, yo, when I come back to New York, I want to be like, I'm fucking home. Let's go. I don't want to feel like I know what this is supposed to be, and it's not fucking that. You know, people see the Statue of Liberty that's like inviting and like, you know, the fucking international signal of welcoming. And when I see it, and I'm not even talking about socially or politically, just from being in a touring band and coming back home, and it's almost like I see the Statue of Liberty, and that's New York to me. But what I'm coming back to is a bunch of fucking slimy, backstabbing scumbags that are fake as hell, where I feel like you said, like a fucking outlaw, and I'm not embraced in outlaw culture, because outlaw culture at that point is not even outlaw at all. It's fucking normies, and they're shunning me for doing what I think this culture actually is. I'm getting heated about it now, but I love that line so much, man, that's why that made it onto the cover of the album. And I was like, dude, this thing if you want to take it as the social political stance, because the whole record, a lot of the record is based on that too. You know, the dwindling of what America actually is as opposed to what it's supposed to stand for. That's over and over again on the album. But that song specifically, that was me wanting to come back home and feel like I'm coming back home, instead of coming back home being like, oh, I know what this is supposed to be, and it's not that, and I just want to get the fuck out of here again.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I mean, you know, I think that touches on, because having similar conversations as far as, you know, say, for instance, releasing something and putting it out, and you're like, you know, this is kind of pissing me off because this is really fucking cool shit. I look around at some of the other bands in a local, you know, avenue or the local scene, and, you know, like, people are going off for these people, and yet, you know, I know them personally, and the shit that they're talking about, they know nothing about. They don't know what the fuck is going on. You know, I don't see what it is that everybody is absolutely fucking losing their shit for. And it's not to say, I mean, I'm sure the same, you know, with you guys, when you play that, people are just fucking standing there or anything by any means. But, you know, it's just like, what is clicking? What is happening here? Like, what the fuck is going on?
You know, there's so many moving parts there. You know, scenes fluctuate to like high periods that are warranted, and high periods that aren't, low periods that are warranted and not, etc. And then especially like, just because I felt this way at that time doesn't mean that is exactly what was happening. You know, even though I would say, this is what I went through, this is my experiences, what I thought at the time, that's my truth. But it doesn't mean like, well, you know what, Long Island Hardcore in 2011 sucked because, you know, Rick was mad. Right. You know what I mean? Like, it's all my point of view, and dude, especially when it comes to music, you can't ever tell anybody, you know, this scene is dead, that scene's dead. It's all your point of view, you know. I knew this one dude that was just, his whole life was hip hop based in like late 80s, early 90s style hip hop, and I met him in 98, 99. And I remember him telling me about like, dude, I remember the first time my cousins took me out to the subway and like, yo, we have X amount of time before this train leaves or whatever. We got to, you know, bomb this entire car before that. And just like the excitement of his, you know, fucking first time covering a full subway car with his cousin. And then him talking about what he did like and didn't like about hip hop at the time. And then, you know, I like a lot of hip hop, but I never was like, you know, neck deep in the culture, especially not in the late 90s. And him being like, you know, a lot of people say hip hop's dead, but so long as I'm alive, hip hop is alive. And dude, that has always stuck with me because that could be applied to so many different things.
Totally.
Hey, how we got to this, I have no recollection. I'm just
Well, the last Outlaw, we're talking that track. Yeah. I mean, certain, you know, it's we're not far off track there. No, definitely. You know, and it's something too. I mean, it's not like you mentioned with it. You know, it's not to say that everything in the scene is all negatives and it's all, you know, but some of those things that you have those frustrations every once in a while where it's like, you see some of those things, you know, it's like whether or not I busted my ass for fucking years writing this record or not, it's like, what is clicking with that recognition as opposed to like, this shit's cool. Like, why the fuck don't you think it is as cool? But you have, you know, that integrity in your own work as far as at the end of the day, you know, if you're walking away and you're happy with the shit that you're doing, you know, it's like, what more can you ask for, you know?
Yeah, dude, if I was playing in a band, especially if it was like my band, and everybody thought it was like the sickest shit ever, but I didn't think so, that would be just miserable for me. Miserable.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Good point. I like that. Good point. Yeah. You can go and, you know, tour with Travis Tritt for, I mean, maybe you like Travis Tritt, I don't know, but you can, you know, be with that motherfucker and make tons of money, you know, but at the end of the day, you're like, God damn, I do not want to be playing these lap steel solos. I don't even know fucking what he plays. I don't know what I'm talking about anymore.
Travis Tritt. I was working at a venue once that did a Travis Tritt show, and his semi was like wrapped with his face. That's what I know about Travis Tritt.
Damn, I mean, he sounds cool. Shit, that's a good start. Good Lord. All right, so as far as here, I'm looking at the old, between my phone is at like 10%, it just told me, and then the time here. Would you want to come back and do a whole other thing as far as for Extinction AD? Because this is kind of a thing where, you know, like I'm never trying to step on, you know, you and like having stories and different things like that.
Whatever you want to do, man. I'm all good.
Okay, if that's cool, we'll do that, and then we'll do like even like a part 3 of the series here, and you know, do a kind of dig into that. And I don't know when you guys have are you working on it? Is it an EP right now? You mentioned something about an album, but is that something?
X6 AD. Okay, so we have, and you know what? There's probably stuff I like. Hey, don't say this yet.
Well, yeah, then yeah, definitely don't. But
no. I'm going to. I'll be. You know, we have an EP done, and we are so psyched on it. We are in fact so psyched on it. The full length that we started in March of 2020, like I was saying before, we cut 3 songs and we're adding 3 new ones because the EP that we did, we're so psyched on. We're like, yo, we need to top this, and what we have now, we need to restructure a little bit because we've raised our level that much on the EP. We played our first show back last Sunday. We played 3. Oh, you know what? We played all 4 songs from the new EP on it. And it's, God, dude, it's so much fun. We recorded a video already. The EP will be coming out before the end of the year. Video will be coming out. A single will be coming out. And after that is officially announced of the details of it coming out,
sure.
After all of that is out in the release, then we will announce full-length details. And, dude, we're back on it, playing shows. We got another show this weekend. We're doing Full Terror Assault Fest in September. playing some shows with the Plague Years
Ooh, yeah.
in September. We're playing 2 shows with Unearthed in September, and neither of those have been announced yet, so I'll say that now too.
Oh, damn.
Dude, we're back on it, man. We got punched and kicked and fucking elbow smashed by the pandemic, and then towards the end of the pandemic, dude, we fucked it right back, and we're ready to go. So we got all that shit going, and if you want to we'll close up, This Hell completely. After Black Mass came out and we toured the fuck out of it, 2012, the summer, we went to Europe 3 times, doing festivals and spot shows and all this shit. Tour constantly, just kick the shit out of it. Like I said, the tour you saw us at in the 2013, that was when I was like getting burnt out on This Is Hell again, but for real. But before that, we recorded the Enforcer EP, which was even another step past Black Mass, where Black Mass, like, thrash metal. You can still hear the crossover in it, songs like Mi Nombre and such. The Enforcer, dude, it was just straight up early 90s thrash metal. We fucking covered Whiplash.
Yes, dude, I was going to mention that. It's sick.
Dude, again, so much fun. We recorded with Zeus, who is just the best engineer / producer I've ever worked with. It was the easiest process. Dude, I learned so much about recording techniques that I use to this day in
a
2.5-day session with Zeus and Nikki Belmore from Josta and Dee Snider's band and Toxic Holocaust and everything. I learned so much from those guys, just from like, oh, that's how you do that? That's how you do that? Oh, cool. And it was so much fun, so easy, the best sounding This Is Hell product. Again, pushing Travis way beyond his means. Like, all right, we want you to hit some notes, but now you got to do it in a lower register. Playing in triplets, which is something we'd never done.
Yeah.
Had really cool artwork. It was released on 3 different labels internationally, which was fucking cool as hell. Came for free in the UK in Metal Hammer. So it was like, yo, we're really ramping up, and we're being kind of accepted as This Is Hell, the metal band at that point. Like, cool, What do you want to do next? You know what? I don't want to do This Hell anymore. I'm going to start a new band. Like, really?
Oh my God.
You don't want to break? I said, look, man. And this is me talking to everybody. Pete, Scuzz, Chris Beal, who'd, been playing with us at that point, and Travis. No ill will towards anybody or anything. It was just straight up, yo, we've done this. We've pushed it. This Is Hell is being a little bit more accepted as a metal band, but I want to even take it another step further. And not only that, I just want to do, even if in some ways Extinction AD, the first EP definitely, was just the next extension of what This Hell would have been. I wanted to do something different. I had felt like the This Is Hell chapter in my life wasn't over. It will never be over. We will never end This Is Hell. There's no why,
Yeah.
But I wanted to my main focus to be something different. I wanted to straight up go like even more metal musically. And at that point, it was the first time that it had been a conscious thing, not just an evolution. Like, I want to do this. It had never done that before. It was always just, oh, this is what I wrote because this is what I like at the time the most, and blah, blah, blah. And same thing, I wanted to go further vocally, even though I wasn't initially going to be the singer of Extinction AD. I wanted to go further lyrically. I just wanted to, start fresh. So it was very like everybody agreeing. I think that this is a good idea. Let's, everybody move on. And then it just, a little teaser for the next time, it just happened that some of the guys that were in This Is Hell made up the first lineup of Extinction AD.
Okay, yeah, and that's that. I mean, certainly that's something we're going to touch on too, with that initial EP that came out before, because there was a couple of different members with that. Before that, though, as far was the Enforcer, was that recorded separately then from Black Mass?
Oh yeah, that was recorded a year and a half later. We recorded that in January or December 2012 or January 2013. I don't recall, one of the other.
I'm so fucked. I don't know why I thought that came out before the album did. So that was after.
It was after, yeah, and it was.
Oh no shit.
Yeah, it was on I Surrender Records on 7-inch in the States, and Metal Hammer released it in the UK, and I don't remember the label that released it in Australia, but that Australia released it as a digipack CD, and in Australia I think it was like a fucking subsidiary of like a major label or something out there, which is like hilarious. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure 3Ys, that was the label, 3Ys. But things work differently in Australia, like there's only so many places you can play, only so many record labels. But dude, it was just a continuation and that incline that This Hell restarted. We had the incline through Sundowning, bit of a decline with Misfortunes, and then little by little, Weight of the World got back up, and Black Mass got back up, Enforcer, we were getting there. And it was just like, I get it, I know, but I want to do something different. I want to start Extinction AD, even though it wasn't named that yet.
Nice. That rules. Yeah, if it's cool, let's do something where we'll come back and we'll do a full thing on Extinction AD, and maybe even something a little bit closer as far as when some new things are coming up, and we can dig into that and talk about some of that shit. That'd be fucking awesome.
Yeah, let's do it, man. Whenever you're free, you let me know, because I know I keep fucking up your time frame.
No, that's it's good, and it's just a thing where it's so cool and it's awesome hearing all this behind the scenes stuff, just because these are albums and these are things that I've been such a huge fan of over the years. So it's not something I'm gonna be like, hold on, I only have 5 more minutes yet. Like, not at all. If we have to split it up in a couple, and I go back and listen to the whole thing as a fucking 8-hour session, then so be it. God damn it.
So Weight of the World that's your This Is Hell record.
Yes, sir.
What's your song on the record?
Fall and Rise.
Okay, cool.
Yes,
so
sir.
Cool. You have to remind me to send you the original version of that. You'll hear my my snare drum, which is obnoxiously small, so it's just like ping, ping, ping.
Nice. I'm not gonna try to be too much of a bug, but I might have to do that, because that'd be fucking awesome to hear.
Oh, dude, sure. You are not. You never bug.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much once again, my man. This has been absolutely awesome, and we'll say until next time, dude.
Cool, man. Sounds good.
Take care and stay healthy.
All right, you got it, man. Talk to you soon.
All right, see ya.
He's a lo-fi horror guy. Yeah, he's kind of a guy, but he is so lo-fi a horror guy. Yeah. Lo-fi horror guy has been recorded in front of a live studio audience.